Welcome to another episode of Rev Up Repairs. Today we're going to look at a steam mop that is leaking out the back. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Let's see, we've got it plugged in, powered on. Let's hit go on this thing and I'll show you what it's doing. I'm going to turn it all the way up. So with it turned on, steam is designed to come out of the bottom of this to help clean your floors. This one is also leaking out of the back. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there's a small port on the back of here that is leaking while it is running. That is not supposed to. There's actually a pressure relief valve inside of this that the hot water is bypassing. We're going to dive into this thing and show you what's going on inside and how to fix it. Stay tuned. Alright, we're going to reposition this thing so that we can get a better view at it. Shrink it down a little bit and we'll go from there. Alright, first we're going to lay it on its back. I'm going to pull the water jug out just so we don't have any extra leakage that we need to. The water jug in here has got a check valve in the bottom so that it doesn't leak while you have it out. There's a little detent inside of here that pushes open on the inside of here to allow the water to flow into the pump inside. We're just going to set this off to the side for right now. Second, we're going to take the head off, flip this guy over. A little detent here, you just push with your finger and the head just pops right off. Down on the inside you'll see there's a tube. Sometimes those get plugged up. That's where the steam enters the head. We're going to stick this off to the side as well for the moment. Next we're going to take the handle off of this just to give us a little bit more room on the bench. Pull the cord out of the way. We're going to take the screw out up at the top. And then the handle should just slide right out. And again, we'll set that out of our way. Okay. Next, we're going to remove the screws. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 screws here. 2 more down here makes 10. We'll pull all those out and get this thing opened up. There we go. Alright, that should be all the screws. This guy should slide off. We'll kick him out of the way. 2 more screws underneath him. Alright, that should separate apart here. There it goes. We're going to spin this thing upside down. There we go. All right. Okay. Now what we've got here, you've got the control switch up on the front, which we know is working because I can change the steam volume and lights coincide. Nothing wrong with that portion. Up inside here, what we've got is the pump, which we can assume is working because water does not flow out of anywhere until you hit the button on. Once the button's going, water starts to come out. Right down here there is a T. The back side of this is where the water is leaking on it. This is a pressure relief valve designed when too much pressure builds up in the steam chamber in the heater, and it allows excess pressure to escape. Kind of like a bypass on a hot water tank in your house. This is the heat element, and then down here we have the outlet of the heater element. It's got a little plumbing valve that takes that steam and it pushes it in through the head, thus onto the floor. A lot of times what happens is inside of here there's some small holes that get plugged up and doesn't allow that steam to fully escape at a reasonable rate. Causing it to build up back pressure and leak the water out towards the top. What we're going to do is we're going to take this guy loose out of here. We're going to check it for corrosion, make sure the ends of those holes are free and clear, and we will go from there. So we'll start out by removing the screws from this guy here. Fortunately, most all these screws are all the same, with the exception of the one screw that holds the handle in, so don't worry about losing track of where screws go. If you ever have a concern about how to put stuff back together, you can sure take a picture with your phone on your camera. They come in handy with rerouting stuff if you're not familiar with them. This guy, we'll pull a couple screws out of this. She's still a little warm from running. Let's see, I can probably tilt you up. We're going to pull this pump guy out too here. Out. May have to let her cool down for a minute. She's still warm. Yeah. We'll come back here in a couple of minutes and we'll resume. I'm going to let that heater cool down a bit. She's still pretty hot to the touch, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alright, I am back and it is cold to the touch. Alright, let's finish popping this thing apart and see what's going on. There's one extra panel need to pop off still. I'll pull these screws out real quick. Almost forgot about them. It's just the two. There we go. Alright. Let's see here. We'll pull that out. This is the pump. And we're going to pull the rest of this guy out. Oh, one more screw in here. Alright. This is that pressure regulator. Basically the steam that backfeeds through here when it's restricted allows excess to pass through here, which goes through the back of this, which drips the water out. My guess, this looks pretty free and clear, is that we have some restrictions down in here. So let's pop this guy out and confirm. This is our drain tube that runs from the heater out to the head. I'm going to blow through this guy and see if she's free. And that thing is a little bit dirty, a little tiny bit of crystallized water in there, but it is free flowing. We'll rinse it out before we put it back together. Alright, this guy here, we're going to pop both of these off of here. I'm just going to set them on here for the moment, just to keep them in place. Throw that guy back on here. There we go. Yeah, alright. Let's see, bottom of here we got some screws. We're going to take the bottom off. What I suspect is the back side of this little valve that's the outlet. There's some small little orifices on it. We're going to pop this apart and see what we got. Now these screws are different than all the rest of the screws. These are actually a machine screw. You want to keep those separated apart just so you know where to go back with them. Alright, this should pop apart. Yeah, I don't see any other screws in there. I think it's just stuck on the gasket. grab a little screwdriver here. Bear with me. Let's see if we can gently motivate this guy. There she goes. I love these little mini pry bars. They are a lifesaver sometimes. Ooh, yeah. That is probably the issue. There is a lot of corrosion inside of this guy. We're going to get this all cleaned up. See right there. And we'll see if we can't free this thing up and get this thing working again. We know the heater works. We know the pump works. So it's just a matter of doing some cleaning out. Another side note too, the exit of the pump where it enters the heater assembly, there's a check valve in here, which the spring just came out. You can see the seat on the inside of here. This goes up inside this body and actually seals on the inside of this tube. We'll clean that up as well and see if we can't get some life back into this. Let's see. That O-ring actually still feels half decent. I am going to gently pull it out of here. Oop. Guess not so gently. That's all right. We will reseal that with some high temperature RTV. I think we'll be able to seal that up just fine. Yeah, that baby is dirty. I don't know that you'll be able to see. I'll try and get a picture of it with something else to include on here. But right down in here, there is a few different ports that allow that steam to pass through. And I am sure a couple of those are plugged with gunk, which causes that back pressure and the leak. So we'll get this cleaned up and we'll take a peek after. I'm gonna wire brush it out. I do have an ultrasonic cleaner, so what I'll probably do is soak this in the ultrasonic cleaner for a bit and try and clean out all those little tiny orifices in there, and we'll go from there. Alright, I'm back. I got the ultrasonic cleaner out, got it all preheated up. The way these work is they vibrate the water at an extremely high frequency, which causes little bubbles to form, which act like little scrubbers. They do an excellent job of cleaning, especially in little ports that you can't get into normally. This particular one I had purchased to do small engine stuff with. They work great for carburetors, for like lawn mowers, chainsaws, dirt bikes. If you do a lot of that stuff, well worth the investment for cleaning that stuff yourself. There's a wide range of things you can use for cleaners inside of it. Honestly, even just water does a pretty good job at cleaning some stuff up. This is a solution of a water and a concentrated cleaner called Clean Warrior that I had bought from a distributor years ago. I don't know if it's still available. You can use Simple Green, detergents, you name it. There's all kinds of neat mixtures that people use depending on what they're cleaning. What we're going to do is we're going to suspend this basket in there. I got a couple of the little parts in here already. The one thing that I am going to do a little different though is I'm going to take this bowl here, because the ports that are down inside of here that are actually plugged, I really want to get those cleaned. So I'm going to actually put a little bit of distilled vinegar inside of this and lay this in there. I'm going to put a plug on the bottom of this just to keep the vinegar from going out. I may have to put something underneath it to suspend it, but we'll see here in a second. I'm going to dump a little bit of vinegar in this guy. Vinegar is great for descaling. Use it for coffee makers, for all kinds of stuff really. It's an excellent source for that. And if a little bit of the vinegar gets in my water, I'm not going to worry too much. I just wanted to concentrate the bottom of that with the vinegar just to give it the best chance as it can. I'm going to put the spring in here also for the check valve. Biggest thing with ultrasonic cleaners, while they are running, you do not want to put your fingers inside. You can actually cause tissue damage in your hands due to the extremely high frequency that these operate at. I'm running this one about 80 degrees Celsius. I'm going to run it for about 25 minutes. We'll get this thing going, and then we'll come back and check on it a little bit later. It's going to be a little noisy, but you can see the bubbles. I'm going to hit the go button on it. You won't be able to hear me talk over it, but you can see the bubble action going on once this thing is rolling, and then we'll pull it out in about 25 minutes or so and see what they look like. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to throw the lid on this thing to keep the heat in it, and we'll come back and check on it later. All right, let's take a peek. That was 25 minutes in the ultrasonic cleaner. Let's see how everything came out. That is amazing. I don't know if you recall, but that was pretty grimy when that went in. Pull these guys out, little seals. I'll flip that. Stuff looks like it's brand new. Give her a little rinse with water before we do anything else. Even the inside of that actually looks a whole lot better. We'll rinse it all out and make sure everything's all free and good to go. Let's see how this looks. It's going to be hard to see in the camera. I'll take a picture and put the before and after up so you can see that difference just with the short bit of time that it was in there cleaning. Sure looks a whole lot better than it did. I'll definitely post that. Some of that corrosion in here is embedded into the aluminum where it's eroded it a little bit. There's not much you can do about that other than replace it, but in this case we're just going to clean it, assemble it, and run it. I think what I am going to do, however, is that heating element, I'm going to try and submerge that and let that run for a little bit without undoing all the wires from it, just to try to clean up the base of that a little bit. All right, let's see if we can be a little tricky with that. Yeah, that'll work. I'll run that for 25 minutes and clean that guy up, and then we'll be ready to start reassembling. We'll be back. One extra thing we're going to do while the ultrasonic cleaner here is going, cleaning up that last little bit. We're going to take the inside of this And I'm going to take a little wire wheel on the end of my Dremel tool here and see if we can't get the inside of this little cleaner. That's probably about as good as it's going to get. Corrosion is pretty hard on aluminum. It pips it, eats it away. Won't affect the functionality of it. Got all the loose, crusty stuff out. The ultrasonic cleaner cleaned through all the ports on the inside, which you won't be able to see on camera. As soon as the other part is done here, we'll get that thing out and we'll start putting this thing back together and see how she works. Alright, we're going to pull this piece out, give it its last little quick clean. That actually cleaned up pretty darn good. We're just going to scrub off a couple little pieces off of it and we'll work on assembling it back together. Alright, one of the first things that I like to do before I re-glue or adhere anything is I like to make sure that surface is clean, especially using RTV. It's really important to have a clean surface, otherwise the RTV may not adhere properly and may develop leaks. I like to use Brake Clean. I'm in the automotive industry, so it's my go-to. But I usually will like to just wipe that flat surface down, and you can usually see on your rag if there's any grease residue on there. That looks pretty clean, which it should be since we just wire brushed it. I'm gonna do the same on the other side here. Just gonna run a little swipe around here just to make sure that we're nice and clean on our surface. And then this particular one, we got the check valve that needs to go back inside here. We don't want to forget that. And then if you remember, the O-ring that this originally sealed with had deteriorated from age and corrosion, so we're going to ditch that since it is not going to be functional. I didn't see any listings on a quick search for replacement parts for this assembly. These things are, you know, $100 or so to replace the whole unit, but I hate to do that just for being able to spend a little bit of time to clean it up and make her working again. So what we're going to do is we're going to seal it with some Permatex sealer. Most steam mops run anywhere from 200 degrees to, I've seen them up as high as like 375 degrees temperature. This one, I'm going to use this sealant on. It says it's good up to 700 degrees, so temperature won't be a problem with the sealant. We'll put a little bead around that, and then we'll screw that guy back together. Let's get this out. Bring it over here. Brand new seal, back of the lid. It's got a little pointy poker on there to puncture that since it's brand new. We're going to screw the little squeeze tube on that. And then I'm just going to trim a little bit off of the tip of this thing. I don't want a huge bead on there. Just a little bead is more than sufficient for what we're doing with it. Cut you off. Just a tiny bit more. There we go. All right. And let's see, we want to get our screws ready. These are all the machine screws. You can see the difference between the screws that screwed all the plastic pieces together versus the screws that hold the machined aluminum pieces together. So make sure you grab the right screws when you go to screw this back together. Pinch down from the bottom. Roll this guy up. There we go. All right. I'm gonna fill this. I don't know if you can see it, but where that O-ring sat, there was a little groove that the O-ring actually sat into. I am going to fill that with a bead of sealant. I'm gonna run you around. Being such a small hole, this stuff is extra effort to push it out of the tube. All right. And I think I am going to put a real thin layer on this side of it too, just to make sure there's no little gaps missed on this thing. I don't want it leaking due to where it's located and having to take this all back apart. I'd rather catch it now. There we go. And that guy, I'm just going to take my finger and just do a little swipe over this just to make sure that it is covered good. There we go. All right. All right. Now, you can see this only goes in one way. If you look down inside, there's that little emulsion tube in there. That goes down inside this hole right here. So that makes that easy for clocking how it goes on. And then of course there's a little spring tension for the spring on there. So we're going to drop a couple screws in here. And I'm going to pinch you together. And we'll put a couple screws in. We'll get them all started before we snug them down. That way if a hole is off by a little tiny bit, we can still wiggle it and get it to go in, and then we'll go back around them and snug them all up the rest of the way. All right. Alright, just gonna go give them a little twist by hand. Definitely messy with the silicone on here. And they are aluminum, so you do want to be careful not to over tighten them because you can crack that. Alright. We'll give that a few to dry. I'm going to go clean my hands up, and then we'll come back and put her together. Alright, let's start putting this thing back together. One of the things I did grab as we go back together is an O-ring lubricant. All of these rubber seals that are on all of these pieces, I usually like to put a little bit of lube on them to keep them from getting dry and cracking or splitting or hanging up. Helps them to last longer and seal better. I usually use a product called Seal Glide. I usually get it at Napa. I use that for probably 90% of my O-rings. I also have a small tube left over. It's just called Super O-Lube. This came with a bearing kit when I replaced the bearings in my washing machine. So I'll probably use what's left in this first. If I run out, I'll switch over and use the Silk-Glide to finish the job up. So what we'll do is we're going to take a little bit on these O-rings here. We should just put a little bit on my finger. Roll it around the O-rings. We'll slide this guy back in place. This is that port for that high pressure relief valve where it goes to the outside, which is where we had our leak at. I'm going to put a little bit of stuff around on that. And then our pump is going to have O-ring on, or I shouldn't say O-ring, rubber seal on the end here. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little bit on that guy. And then also on our heater assembly, there is rubber seals on both ends of that. So those are all ready to go back together. Wipe my hands off here. All right. So the next step in assembling this thing is going to be to slide this pressure relief valve on. This does not matter which way it goes. It's a through tube. All it does is when pressure builds up too high in the heater assembly, since the pump has a check valve and it can't push it back into the reservoir, it pushes it out through a port on the outside of here. There's a spring inside. When that pressure overcomes that spring, that extra pressure relieves through, goes through the back of the housing, which is where we had the drippage from. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide this guy onto here. We're going to line this guy up here and slide this seal in right here. We have the two mounts that we took off. They are shouldered on the inside. The short part goes down. The screw sets in. This guy goes on this side here. They can only go on one way, so if you're worried about getting them mixed up, you won't be able to assemble it or screw it on if they are backwards. So you are safe there. All right. Throw a couple screws in these guys, keep it secured in place. On my drill, also most electric drill drivers have a torque adjustment on them. Allows it to break free inside before your screw strips out. Anytime screwing stuff into plastic, it's always a good idea to turn that down so that you don't risk cracking your plastic when you're screwing bits in. You hear that little click click noise? That is the clutch inside of this that spins free to prevent screws from cracking. Makes it nice so you don't have to think too hard. You can just screw them and send them. All right, now we'll screw down that pressure relief valve. Set that down in its rubber home, and that had two screws holding that guy on. And the nice thing again is that all these screws for this body stuff are all the same, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. All right, next is to line the pump in here. Same thing, we already got our lube on that, so it's just ready to slide right in place. Slide this guy over here. This little module, that guy, there's a little slot in here that just kind of slides in. It's not super critical. It only kind of goes in one way. It's not going to hurt as long as it's secured in place when the case goes back together. Next piece is going to be the housing that held that pump in place. You can see on the top of the pump for the inlet, this is a rubber seal as well, which I do want to put a little bit of goo on. That seals against the bottom of here, and then this water reservoir slides right into here. It has a rubber seal on it as well that seals on the top part. So we're going to slide this guy in to the end of this. And that is held with a couple of screws as well. All right, that is in. We'll put those guys on. My wife will be happy to have her steam mop back. This is one of her favorite go-tos for hardwood floors and tile. Alright. Switch is in place. Everything on here is looking right where it should be. So the next step is going to be to roll this guy over. Line it all up. Oops. Spin it the right way, of course. And goes on just like that. And that. And then, of course, all the screws. And watch those cords. Make sure they're tucked down inside. There's a little booger. Just double check and make sure everything's sitting down and flat, because something's not sitting kosher. Alright, I just double checked on my picture because I'm missing something. This thing looks like it's actually supposed to be 90 degrees. So just to rotate this real quick, we're just going to pop this little cover here for you real quick. Quick fix. That is where pictures do come in handy on disassembly. There we go. There. So I think what we're doing is interfering with the little plastic on there. But again, not the end of the world. Found the problem and took care of it. Instead of just cramming it together and letting it go. I definitely want to make sure it's assembled properly. There we go. Okay, now we'll clip this little guy back in his hook. And then let the little control module back where it goes. Now we should be able to set this thing in. And drop those guys in where they go. Look at that. Fits like a glove. Almost like it's supposed to sit there. Alright, now let's put some screws back in this thing and get her back together. One of my favorite sayings that I learned from my auto shop teacher back when I was in high school that has kind of stuck with me my whole life is, any job, big or small, do it right or not at all. And that is something that I always live by. Hence why I would take this thing back apart, because it wasn't sitting quite right. Want to make sure everything on it is sitting properly. Doesn't do any good to do something halfway and have a problem with it later. Better off just to fix it right the first time, be done with it, and go from there. Alright, aside from being a little dirty, which we'll wipe down when we're all done, we are ready for that headpiece to go on. Slide you on. That fits way better. And we're running out of screws, which is a good sign. Right. That is looking good. Okay. We'll put the handle back on this guy. No need to leave that off anymore. Let's see, that guy goes this way. I'm gonna slide him down so the screw hole lines up on the inside, which is right there. Right. Put the mop head back on. I do want to take a peek at the nozzle in here real quick. Yeah, that all looks good. All right, she steams, she blows. I will probably wait until the morning to turn it on. I want to give that sealant inside 100% time to charge up, seal up, and we'll kick her on tomorrow, and we'll see how she goes. All right, good morning. Before I headed out to work, I figured I'd come down and put some water in this thing and just make sure she's sealed up so I can give it back to my wife and head to work. So first, I'm gonna take the water bottle. It does have some essential oils in it too, so it smells actually really good when it's being used. We're gonna slide that up here. I'm gonna plug this guy in, and we're gonna let it heat up, and we're gonna make sure that we don't have any leakage at the back. It takes a couple minutes for the heater on here to heat up to temp, and the light on here will go solid. It'll say it's good to go, and we'll turn it on to the setting, and we'll make sure she doesn't leak. That was quick. All right, here we go. Let's see, might as well start on full steam. Steaming good out the head. Let's put it back this way. It looks like it's steaming a lot more than it was before, and I don't see anything dripping out the back. This is where it was dumping out before. The back side of this is where that pressure relief valve was. With the nozzle all plugged up in the bottom of that heat element, was causing pressure to build up, not be able to push out the head. And so it pushes it out here as a safety feature so that it doesn't overpressurize and cause something to pop apart inside. But we're going to call this one fixed. Thanks for watching. Like or subscribe down in the bottom if you like this video. Comment in the comment sections if you got questions or any other suggestions for videos you want to see. We'll see you next time. Thank you.